Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
Now been determined that 109 have gone overboard.
Nearly 100 shipping containers now at the bottom of the sea off BC's coast. The contents and the concerns. Also, why the pandemic seems to be stabilizing in BC, and a record-breaking movie filmed and set in Metro Vancouver.
It's just so fun watching it because I'm a Vancouverite.
The local actors who say this is just the beginning.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. Well, many more shipping containers than originally thought have fallen off a cargo ship now anchored near Victoria. Tonight, we're getting a better idea of what's part of that freight that has now sunk to the bottom of the ocean. Dan Burrett joins us live with more now. Dan, how many have they found?
Only 3, and that's out of 109 that have now been determined to have fallen off the MV Zim Kingston. We originally thought it was only 40. It's been a very tough go for that freighter recently. It ran into rough weather on Friday en route to Vancouver, where it lost dozens of containers. It's now anchored, as you said, just south of Victoria. Then a fire broke out and several containers still on board. Some of them held a hazardous material identified as potassium amylxanthate used in mining. Smoke deemed toxic was then sent into the air and 16 crew members were taken off. That fire is still smoldering. And it turns out the compound is in 2 of the missing containers. Others are loaded with Christmas decorations, poker tables, sofas, metal car parts, clothing, toys, and yoga mats. And some of those containers have been found far from that ship. The Coast Guard says they've been spotted in the water near Cape Scott at the northern tip of Vancouver Island, as you can see. Others have been found near Bamfield, and some have reportedly washed ashore. Officials think others are in the deep.
We expect that at least some of them have sunk. They're out there being battered in heavy seas. The watertight integrity is not that great. So there's a good chance that a lot of them have already sunk.
Now, if you spot a container that's washed ashore, officials say do not open it. Instead, call there's a number that you can call to report marine pollution. Now, as for the containers that hold that hazardous material, the Coast Guard says they are marked, and since it's water soluble, it's not expected to last long in the environment just around the container. If it does leak, the ship owner, meanwhile, has to pay all of the salvaging costs. Anita.
Interesting stuff, Dan. Hope it gets cleaned up. Thank you. A North Vancouver man has stepped forward as the first accuser in a sexual assault investigation concerning the NHL's team in Chicago. This evening, he shared his story in an interview with TSN, and a warning, these details are distressing.
I felt sick. I felt sick to my stomach. I reported this, and I was made aware that it made it all the way up the chain of command by Doc Gary, and nothing happened. It was like his life was the same as it was the day before.
Kyle Beach was a top prospect for Chicago in 2010. He never got to play in the NHL, but regularly practiced during the team's Stanley Cup run. In a lawsuit, Beach, who was 20 years old at the time of the incidents, has accused former video coach Brad Aldrich of threatening him with a bat before forcibly performing sexual acts on him. Aldrich has told investigators the encounter was consensual. The league has since fined the team $2 million, and their general manager has resigned. New COVID-19 modeling projections suggest BC is holding steady against the pandemic. Daily cases are still high, but in a few weeks, the province may start to see those infection rates begin to fall, even by as much as half. Overall, the modeling suggests the pandemic is largely stable, with infections very slowly declining. Safety measures like masks, vaccines, and proof of vaccination help prevent cases from rising. That said, the average daily number of cases remains high, but are projected to fall over the next 3 weeks at the rate of 2% per day.
So it's a slow decline, but it is a decline, and it looks like across BC, slight declines or stable cases. And so that is pretty optimistic. but it is declining, and that's a nice thing to see.
She says the modeling makes clear vaccination is one of the strongest tools in fighting the spread of COVID-19 and preventing deaths. 609 British Columbians have tested positive for COVID since yesterday, and 6 more people have died. While active cases are dropping, the number of people in intensive care has hit another high. Of the 422 people in hospital, 157 are in ICU, nearly 20 more than last week. Today's number matches the highest peak recorded so far this 4th wave. 133 of those ICU patients have not had a single dose of vaccine. And the city of Vancouver is asking the public what they hope the city can become over the next 30 years.
We're asking the community, the public, to engage in showing us how we can grow and change.
Starting today, planners are asking for feedback to help shape the Vancouver plan. This document will help guide the city's growth. Equitable housing, transit hubs, and climate action are all under the spotlight. City Council will be presented with the plan next spring. People can take part online at vancouverplan.ca or visit the City Lab in person. Well, the BC government is making more support available for neurodiverse kids and others with disabilities that are undiagnosed.
This is about providing BC children and youth with a support system that is easier to access and navigate, one that will help them reach their goals and set them on a positive pathway for life.
A new system of one-stop family connection hubs will launch province-wide in 2024. Families with children and teens 19 and under can walk in without a diagnosis or referral and still get support. Families currently getting individualized care can continue with the same services or take part in the new system. But eventually, BC plans to phase out individualized funding by 2025. Well, are you going all out to decorate your home for Halloween this year? Well, roughly 1 in 4 British Columbians is going big for the spooky season at the same rate or even more than they do for Christmas. That's according to new research from BC Hydro. Haunted houses are famous for ramping up the fright factor, but BC Hydro is finding nearly a quarter of people are putting up what they call mega displays, and many of those include a lot of lights that draw on the power grid. Spending on decorations is expected to hit an all-time high this year, they say. But with that in mind, BC Hydro is recommending using LEDs rather than incandescent light bulbs and setting a timer to control energy use and costs. A movie that's shot and set in Metro Vancouver is breaking box office records in India. It's a Punjabi film that features many BC actors. And as Anita Bathe reports, it's also challenging stereotypes in the South Asian community.
Its shows are selling out in local theaters. Hansla Rakh features this Punjabi superstar as a divorced dad raising a son on his own as he finds new love. It's all shot over 40 days in Vancouver and Surrey last spring.
I think I had an amazing time. I love being in, BC, Vancouver. We were all obviously stuck and we were all in the middle of a pandemic. So it was so nice to be here and work with the local talent.
And it's breaking box office records in India and North America as the highest opening Punjabi film. Its global success is driven by local venues and talent. A dream come true for this Vancouver actor making her debut.
I feel like it was like a wonderful blend of culture, and I don't know, it's just so fun watching it because I'm a Vancouverite, and to see myself and my city being represented in the Punjabi industry is awesome.
Canada is beaming with Punjabi talent, she says.
There's so much, to pick from, and I really feel like it should be celebrated and people should be given opportunities.
While COVID made it difficult to cast actors from India, nearly 100 local staff took on the production.
That's how our local talent, local sport, local community sport. So that's what we done this one. I think we should promote more our local talent and our regional movies.
From the music, actors, venues, and beyond, it's all a stepping stone for more local opportunity in the Punjabi film industry, he says. Anita Bathe, CBC News, Vancouver.
It's a heist 65 million years in the making, sort of. A cherished T-Rex statue has allegedly been stolen from outside a North Burnaby home.
You should bring our dinosaur back to us. How would you like it if somebody came and stole your dinosaur?
Owners of the dino say they realized their beloved statue was missing from their yard yesterday morning. The fiberglass fossil has a long history, almost as far back to the Cretaceous period when T-Rex roamed. It was originally part of Expo 86, where it was on display in the Alberta Pavilion. After a tour about town, it found its way to Burnaby near Cambridge Street and Boundary Road. Anyone who has seen the 5-foot, 80-pound thunder lizard is asked to call the RCMP. Okay, Joe, not saying you stole it, but I feel like that forest behind you is a good place for a dinosaur.
Yeah, I'm not saying I don't have dino envy. I mean, that would look great back here, but it was not me. I swear, but I'm definitely going to be looking on eBay. We've got some rain that we're tracking in the forecast. It's knocking on our door right now. I know we had some blue sky breaks today, and it sure was nice to see the sun for a moment. But let me show you what I'm tracking. That's moving in very quickly. Metro Vancouver, parts of it under a rainfall warning. Northern, southern, and eastern sections. This atmospheric river, yes, it's another one, coming in at us tonight, is hitting a little farther south. So 50 to 70 millimeters for parts of Metro Vancouver. Notice the white for the highway passes. That is snow for the Coquihalla, 10 to 20 centimeters overnight tonight and through tomorrow. West side of the island, especially near Port Renfrew, getting a good amount of rain as well. So here's the fire hose. It's really just taking aim on the southern sections of Vancouver Island tonight. It'll track across to Metro Vancouver overnight tonight. And yes, this is an atmospheric river. The long plume of moisture directing basically water all the way from the Hawaiian Islands right smack dab into the south coast. Interesting bullseyes for us. It is Vancouver, southeastern Vancouver, I should say, and Victoria seeing the most rain, Anita. So can't rely on the rain shadow this time, Victoria. But I've got some good news after the river. I'll tell you more about it in a little bit.
Sounds good. Thanks, Joe.
You're welcome.
Well, half of Canadian workers think doing their jobs remotely could hold them back in their careers. It's according to a new survey, and employers can take steps to address those fears because, as Janella Hamilton is finding out, the future of work for many in BC includes a hybrid model.
It's been more than a year since Amanda Thomas stepped into her office at Coast Capital Savings in Port Moody. And while she misses interacting with colleagues, she says the flexibility of working from home has given her family a healthier work-life balance.
Having the kids home and working some of the longest hours of my life while we were trying to figure our way through COVID.
Thomas will continue to work remotely for the foreseeable future, and she's not alone. According to a new Angus Reid survey sponsored by technology firm Cisco Canada, 74% of BC employees say their companies are also planning to continue with a hybrid or remote work model.
I think most businesses are going to be hybrid moving forward. And again, I think it gets back to that 77% of Canadians are saying, hey, this flexibility and choice is really important to my employment decision.
And while working from home has its benefits, it can also bring challenges. The survey suggests 46% of BC employees feel working in person will bring more opportunities for workplace engagement and career growth compared to working remotely. Thomas says she understands why working remotely can bring on a feeling of neglect.
I personally take it on myself to advocate for myself and to make it be known what I'm working on and how much value I'm bringing to the organization.
Anya Cox works with Thomas and is the Chief People Officer of Coast Capital. She says it's up to managers to check in with their staff to ensure their needs are being met.
With this move to having a much more flexible workforce, we've also been very thoughtful about what do we need to provide to our employees and how do we support our leaders to be able to lead different types of teams as well so that people do continue to feel included.
Tara Robertson is a workplace consultant. She says there are some easy ways for employers to support people working remotely, including asking them how they're doing and being sure they're seen, quite literally.
creating the meeting norms when we're in a hybrid environment. So I think the best practice is for everyone to be on their own computer so you can see everyone's face and like their facial expressions and body language.
Cisco Canada says the right approach will vary across workplaces, but the overall takeaway is to prioritize personal well-being as well as flexible work arrangements, since this hybrid model could be the future of work in BC. Janella Hamilton, CBC News, Vancouver.
Well, there are a lot of questions about BC now offering a booster dose of the COVID-19 vaccine to more people. As Joel Ballard tells us, it was an unexpected announcement by the province.
It's the latest step in BC's vaccination program, a booster shot for everyone over 12 starting in January. But many of you have questions, so we sat down with the head of Vancouver's Infectious Disease Centre to get you some answers.
2 weeks after you've gotten your second shot, 90% protection rates are achieved. We've now realized that over time, that decreases. This is not a sign that the vaccine is not effective. It's a sign that we need to give the next dose to recover the level of protection that was achieved with the first 2-dose regimen. All of the subsequent shots will be mRNA vaccines, and we now know that mixing and matching different types of vaccines may produce a more robust immune response, may produce more protection, so this is a good thing. Get that mRNA vaccine, that next shot, when it's offered to you. The future for me is that there will always be COVID around, but we will be able to deal with it more productively in a new normal that will be completely comfortable for us. In that context, it is possible, if not likely, that we will be getting a yearly COVID shot. No one gets it right if we all get it half right. So I think we have enough of a supply of vaccine in Canada to meet the needs of Canadians. Our responsibility as a nation and as Canadians is that if we have any excess vaccine, that we identify that excess as quickly as we can and that we ship it to wherever it is needed most.
Conway says the best way to look at it moving forward is like your yearly flu shot. Joel Ballard, CBC News, Vancouver.
You are watching CBC Vancouver News at 6 o'clock. Our program is also available on CBC Gem. That's our free app. Download it if you haven't already. After receiving an invitation from Canadian Catholic bishops, Pope Francis is coming to our country as part of the reconciliation process with Indigenous peoples. Coming up, why some want more than an apology. Thanks for staying with us during our commercial-free live stream. These are trying times for nurses and doctors everywhere, but in Saskatchewan, 2 healthcare workers at the Regina General Hospital have had the happiest time of their lives. As Bonnie Allen tells us, the 2 women have bonded over a shared mission to bring a new life into this world.
I don't know if that's like a bum or a limb.
This part comes naturally to best friends Carissa Jarsma and Courtney Sestonic. Carissa is a labor and delivery nurse at Regina General Hospital. Courtney is a nurse in training. But for both, fertility has been a struggle.
You feel so depleted after a loss, and you feel like you'll just never get to bring a baby home with you. We were at the end of a $15,000 IVF process and didn't have anything to show for it, basically.
After great effort and expense, Carissa and her husband Justin adopted their first son, Jonah, then used another couple's fertilized egg to birth their second son, Avery.
Paying that forward and giving a gift to someone else because I've been gifted the same gift, like it feels like a natural progression.
So this pregnancy?
Come on, baby. Kick for mama.
Well, the baby belongs to her friend Courtney, and she'll never forget the first kick.
Put my hand on her abdomen, and baby immediately kicked my fingers. And I looked at Carissa, and Carissa didn't even get the chance to tell me that baby had kicked before I was crying.
Courtney was born without a uterus.
The prognosis was just, hopefully you'll be able to have biological children, but somebody else will need to carry them for you because you cannot.
She and her husband Chris found a surrogate last year. But sadly, their daughter Josie was stillborn halfway through the pregnancy.
Josie's bunny sits in our crib, and so she holds space in our crib right now while we wait for another baby. You're just like overwhelmed with emotion because you are going to be a mom soon. Like there's going to be a baby coming into our house.
The intended mother and surrogate are closer and happier than ever, sharing their story to help others.
We can try and remove that stigma that there is around infertility because so many people, it's their dirty little secret, and that's awful to go through something so devastating on your own.
The baby is due any day. Bonnie Allen, CBC News, Meadow Lake, Saskatchewan.
Residential school survivors have sought justice, accountability from the Catholic Church for decades of abuse and trauma inflicted on Indigenous children. Now, the Pope has agreed to come to Canada to help with the reconciliation process. But as Olivia Stefanovich reports, survivors want more than apology. They want action.
Peter Gardapi still remembers his first day attending residential school.
I got a severe strapping from the nun because I couldn't understand what she was talking about.
Gardapi says the nuns tried to beat the Cree language out of him. He's still searching for healing.
The Pope has to come in and apologize and work with us to restore a lot of the damage that's been done.
An Indigenous delegation is traveling to the Vatican in December, a trip to set the stage for a possible formal apology from the Pope in Canada.
It's very important to not lose sight of what this is all about. And this is about the abuse of children.
This bishop says that insight will be instrumental in shaping the Pope's pilgrimage.
Reconciliation, as you know, often takes many steps before we understand what we are apologizing for.
Residential school survivor Cheryl Casimir has long waited to hear His Holiness say sorry, but word of the planned visit is bittersweet. Many of her family members aren't around to hear it.
They all died quite violent deaths as a result of them trying to deal with their hurt and their trauma.
Apologies are meaningless without action.
There are calls for the Pope to order Catholic entities to turn over all records, identifying missing children and unmarked burials.
So this needs to be a categorical, complete acceptance of responsibility.
While no date has been set yet for the papal visit, the bishops say they hope it will happen this upcoming year, a chance for the church that promotes forgiveness to ask for forgiveness itself on Canadian soil. Olivia Stefanovich, CBC News, Ottawa.
The police shooting of an Indigenous man was caught on video in Thompson, Manitoba earlier this week. The man remains in hospital with serious injuries. And as Marina von Stackelberg reports, the incident is now under investigation by the province's police watchdog. And a warning, some viewers may find the details disturbing.
This RCMP officer was supposed to serve legal documents to this man. In the video, he approaches the Mountie, who backs up. Then the officer draws his gun and shoots. This footage was captured by people in a nearby building. RCMP say the 30-year-old man had a knife. That's not clear in the video.
It's very, very disturbing to see that type of response from an RCMP officer.
Chief Eric Redhead is with the Keewatin Tribal Council. It represents 11 First Nations in northern Manitoba.
To shoot a human being at point blank range is really unacceptable. Again, we have questions of why didn't the officer use non-lethal force? Why didn't the officer use the tasers that are provided, the training that is provided to them?
Let's get all the facts in before we're able to point our fingers and determine fault or whether it was fair and justifiable shooting.
This use of force expert says there are many questions. The officer might not have had a taser. It's unclear what happened between the two men before the cameras captured the shooting.
The officer kept backing up, and this gentleman kept approaching him and kept following him, tracking him, and they got very, very close.
Stephen Somerville says it is common practice for police to go solo to serve legal papers, but it's also regular practice to run a criminal record check on the person to see if they have a history of violence. Redhead doesn't think the officer should have been alone.
The only difference in this situation was it was caught on camera. There are many incidents that occur to Indigenous people by RCMP that aren't recorded.
Manitoba's police watchdog will look into what happened. It's responsible for taking over cases when a police officer injures someone. But Chief Eric Redhead says he wants someone different to investigate. Marina von Stackelberg, CBC News, Winnipeg.
New Brunswick health officials have broken their silence over a mysterious brain illness affecting dozens across the province. They're now raising the possibility that 8 of the 9 people who have died since May have been misdiagnosed, raising even more questions. And as the CBC's Mark Kelly reports, that includes whether the mystery illness even exists.
Even like standing up, I find it's almost impaired.
Luc LeBlanc is one of 48 people in the province with a mystery illness no doctor can diagnose.
Almost like spider walk on, something crawls on your skin, or back pain, but numbness, headache, like mostly headache.
The patients range in age, men and women suffering from brain fog, muscle atrophy, debilitating body pain. Some cases were fatal, including Tim Beatty's dad, Laurie.
You want to have an answer. You want to be able to explain, what happened to your dad and make some sense of it.
With people on edge, the New Brunswick government launched an investigation to determine if this was indeed a new neurological disorder, and if so, whether the cause could be environmental, something in the food or the water. Today, an update. New Brunswick's health minister says an epidemiological survey of the patients should reassure people in the province.
It concludes that there are no behavioral, environmental, or food conditions that needs to worry New Brunswickers.
Also, new information on the illness itself. 9 people have now died, but autopsies performed on 8 of the victims reveal they died from known diseases, such as cancer, Lewy body dementia, and Alzheimer's disease. The minister questioned the validity of the mystery illness, saying a Moncton neurologist, Dr. Alia Marrero, who referred almost all 48 cases while working with federal scientists, acted on incomplete information.
And so this is Science 101. This is what needs to happen in order to understand what we are truly dealing with.
Despite her reassurances, the minister admits no testing has been done for any possible environmental factors, such as toxic blue-green algae, that some scientists suggest could be linked to the patient's undiagnosed neurological disorders.
That doesn't settle well with me, and I can safely speak for, I'm sure, a lot, if not all, of the other people affected by this, that they won't rest well with that answer either.
The Honourable Dorothy Shepherd, Minister of Health.
Luc LeBlanc agrees.
I think they have fear about telling if there is a new disease, or if it could be a cause of a new disease, or it's the fear of the unknown. I think it's what's scaring, and they don't want to create panic, but I think they're...
That's the CBC's Mark Kelly reporting tonight. To Afghanistan now, where refugees escaping Taliban rule. For them, the journey to Canada can be a volatile one. About 370 people recently arrived in Ottawa. Robin Miller spoke with one family about what it took to get there.
Those are some experiences that I will never forget it.
Dr. Mohammed Kais Formuli says it took his family 4 trips to the airport in Kabul, Afghanistan, before they were finally able to board a Canadian plane out of the country. The scene at the airport was volatile and at times violent, not a place for young children.
Sometimes my little children, they were in the sleep, they were just jumping. because of the shock that they faced there.
But now the family is safe. Formuli's wife, 4 young children, his mother, brother, and 3 of his sisters are all now living in a West End hotel in Ottawa. A new reality that, for the children, is hard to accept.
I tell them that, you see, we were in a very bad condition. We didn't. There was no water. There was no food. In addition to that, we were struggling with a life-threatening scenario. But right now we have very, very comfortable beds. We have sufficient food. We have the people that are around us that they're very nice.
Mohammed Shah's Formuli is the brother. He too is a doctor and feels grateful to be in Canada, but says emotions are mixed.
If I work hard, I can really reach my goals. On the other hand, I'm very disappointed about my country, a country that we worked for it for over 20 years.
Along with leaving the chaos, they also left friends and family behind. It's a heartache that hangs over the family as they work to move forward, taking steps to secure housing, healthcare, and employment, as they, like so many Afghan refugees, start over in Canada. Robin Miller, CBC News, Ottawa.
A post on what to do if you're lost while hiking is making the rounds on social media. But those with search and rescue say it's misinformation. Coming up, we'll speak with a search manager with North Shore Rescue about why it's a problem.
There are 2.5 million cats in Canada. People seem to either love them or hate them. And now cat lovers and cat haters who buy books are making bestsellers out of anti-cat books. Holt Reinhardt publishes hundreds of titles, but this, believe it or not, is their #1 bestseller. The best-selling paperback in Canada and the US is something called 101 Uses of a Dead Cat. 700,000 copies of it have been sold. Cartoonist Simon Bond shows dead cats being used as bookends, toast holders, baseball bats. Bond was in Toronto today, autographing copies of his bestseller.
Why are these books doing so well?
Well, I guess there's plenty of cat lovers with a sense of humor.
Are cat lovers buying these books, or cat
absolutely.
haters?
Well, it's cat lovers. I mean, I'm a cat lover, and everybody involved with the book is cat lovers. It's the cat lovers buying it, yes, absolutely.
This is the newest addition to the anti-cat literature. Some of the nicer things it says about cats is that they're ungrateful, unfaithful, unfeeling, sneaky, cruel, and above all, stupid.
The author of Cat Hater's Handbook quotes a scientist as saying, "The intelligence of cats is below dogs and just above rats." He urges his readers to use word of mouth against cats, run them down on every possible occasion, using the ammunition provided here. Russ Patrick, CBC News, Toronto.
They will look a lot better hanging around the necks of Canadian athletes, but the medals for the Winter Olympics still won applause when unveiled in Vancouver. Unique is the word, designed by First Nations artist Corrine Hunt, inspired by the orca, a West Coast whale that's powerful yet needs its pod to survive.
It's the idea that these Olympic athletes, although they may train sometimes by themselves, there's a team.
Produced by the Royal Canadian Mint in Winnipeg, partly from recycled metal, the medals have a curious undulating quality. I'm with CBC. It does not take long to discover these medals produce strong feelings.
It looks like a ripple chip.
It looks very classy. Yeah.
Not a ripple chip.
Not a ripple chip, no.
I like the silver
personally.
Yeah, me too. And the bronze is pretty
You'd rather
cool.
have the silver than the bronze, than the gold?
I'd rather have the gold.
All right, I'm completely disappointed.
Really?
I'm very proud Canadian. I want a maple leaf on it.
The design does break with Olympic form. In 1976, Montreal's medals followed tradition with a Greek goddess. Not so Salt Lake's somewhat lumpy medal, but professional medal makers like Paul Chong know it's tough to please everyone.
Looks interesting, you know. I never seen like this wave things, but it's good, I think.
And even those who hate these medals admit they'd still like Canada to win a bunch in February. Bob Nixon, CBC News, Vancouver.
Here are some of the stories we're following tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
There's Christmas decorations, furniture, car parts, clothes, toys, yoga mats, stand-up paddle boards, industrial parts, and everything in between.
We now know 109 containers fell off a cargo ship off BC's coast, not 40. 2 of them contain hazardous goods, and many of the containers have already sunk. Some of them have even washed up on a beach at Cape Scott on the northern tip of Vancouver Island. A hockey player from North Vancouver has stepped forward as John Doe #1 in the Chicago NHL team's sexual assault investigation. Then 20 years old, Kyle Beach didn't play in the NHL, but was a so-called black ace for Chicago in 2010. He practiced with them on a regular basis. And in the investigation, Beach said the team's video coach, Brad Aldrich, threatened him with a souvenir baseball bat and performed sexual acts on him. Aldrich told investigators the encounter was consensual. Well, search and rescue crews are warning of a viral hiking post spreading life-threatening misinformation. The so-called survival tip is being shared widely on social media, and it could result in harm. The post is calling on people lost to change their voicemail to indicate their approximate location. But rescuers say this is a waste of time and phone battery, and to just call 911 instead. For more on this, I'm joined by Doug Pope, search manager with North Shore Rescue. Thanks for being on the show tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Doug, why is a post like this so troubling, telling people to change their voicemail if they're lost or stranded while hiking?
Well, it's troubling because it's very bad advice, and it's giving that kind of bad advice to someone that might be in a life and death situation. Why it's bad advice is whenever you're in trouble in the backcountry, the first thing to do is, if you can't find your way back or if you know you're stuck, is to call 911. So by calling 911, you can start the process of getting first responders involved. And if it is in the backcountry, search and rescue. And a lot of times we can get your location, which is one of the key things we need to start an effective rescue is your location. We can get that from the 911 call. So delaying a 911 call is really troubling by someone saying, well, change your voicemail. And really, it's not practical advice in the sense that in order to change your voicemail, you need a cell signal. So they're talking about advice for when you might lose your cell signal. But if you have a cell signal, you can call 911. If you don't have a cell signal, then you can't change your voicemail anyway.
Search teams have been incredibly busy already this year. Can you tell me about that in terms of call volume and why calls have gone up?
Yeah, search teams all over the province have been extra busy this year, and North Shore Rescue is not an exception in that matter. We've had 191 calls so far this year, which is well beyond our record year. Last year was, I think, around 145 calls. So here we are near the end of October, and we've already significantly surpassed any previous year in call volume.
And do we know why that's happening?
Not exactly, but we have noticed, and probably most people that have been out in the trail networks all over the Lower Mainland notice that there's more people going out and about, and generally it's probably a good thing, people getting out, getting exercise and enjoying the beautiful natural environment we have here in the South Coast. But the sheer number of more people, I think, is related to population increases in the Lower Mainland, and generally more people getting out, but also related to the pandemic and people not traveling other places and enjoying the natural areas close to their home.
Now, it is that time of year where the sun is really starting to set early, temperatures are dropping. With all of that in mind, what do people need to watch out for or think about before going out?
Yeah, it is really important. And this time of year that we do go to a trend of the type of calls we see this time of year, and they're typically related to, as you said, the days are getting shorter. So think about when you plan a hike, how long that's going to take, and look up when the sunset is for that particular day, and back figure and leave yourself a really good buffer on getting out in time. Because we do get a lot of calls where people get stuck in the dark, and a lot of them don't have a headlamp with them and aren't able to self-rescue. And using your cell phone flashlight will only get you so far, and then it drains your battery, and that's your key link to help. So that's definitely not recommended. So planning your route, giving yourself adequate time.
Doug Pope is the search manager with North Shore Rescue. Thank you.
Thanks again.
Police in New Mexico are still looking into whether charges will be laid in the film set shooting death involving actor Alec Baldwin. The latest on the investigation next. And at 6:39, a live shot of False Creek tonight. Well, it turned out to be a pretty nice day. So when is the shift coming? You know, Johanna has you covered after the break.
Hi, I'm Vern, and this is my home. This house is extremely unique. Built in 1928. It was built by Harry Lowe, who was an infamous rum runner who hung out with the likes of Al Capone. It's a monster of an attitude sort of house. Like if you look at the outside, you have turrets and you have peaks and you have copper, and there's just a combination of arches, and it's just stunning, but it's not one type of house. Right when I bought the house in 2012, it was just one of those houses that I had driven by, and I always thought I would get arrested because I would park out front here, and I felt like I was the house stalker before I owned it. This is the foyer entrance. So everything in here is done in a walnut, and that was sort of typical back in the 20s. The stairs were built literally right here. But this was done with just a couple of Geppettos. I mean, they got a couple of saws and a chisel, and they create this sort of thing. Every molding is curved. Like, it's just like insane. It looks flippin' cool. I do live here by myself. I don't consider myself the king of any castle, but this is my castle, so we can go with that. So I'm in the manufacturing industry, and we manufacture anything that deals with wood. The whole house needed woodwork. It was a perfect match. Took about 2 years to restore it, and it was a fabulous experience. This is ceiling detail here. About 25% of it was destroyed, and we recreated parts so that we could restore it. The panel work in here is all original panel work, the doors and the trim. The table itself was manufactured by my company. So this fireplace here, when I bought the house, it had probably 9 coats of paint on it, but now this is basically what it would have looked like back in Harry Lowe's time. The ceiling, it's all plaster, it's all custom, and each rosette is very similar, but they're not the same. And there's thousands of them. It makes you wonder how it was even done. Today, it would be generated on computer, and it would be no problem. It's a lot of house for one guy, but yeah, I live in a very small portion of this house. This is the master bedroom. There's some leaded glass windows in the attic that I really wanted to see them in the bedroom. So what we did is we cut out the attic, created this upside down ship sort of effect, put in a cool chandelier. Because I do live here, I wanted to have some modern technology, so I built in the bed with a TV. So this is really my little sanctuary. This is a dream home. This is a home that I've wanted for probably 18 to 20 years, and you can't help but love this house.
In the year 2050, how will BC look? From agriculture to cities, how will climate change change life? Don't miss 2050 Degrees of Change, a CBC Vancouver original podcast, now available.
It's 100 days to the Winter Olympics in Beijing. There are ongoing calls to boycott the Games over China's human rights record. And of course, there are pandemic concerns too. But as freelance reporter Patrick Falk tells us, the city says it's ready to play host.
Well, this certainly won't come as much of a surprise, but the main theme of the briefing today was how to keep the Games COVID secure. Officials say that this is the biggest challenge they are facing, and that if they don't manage to contain the virus over the course of the event, which begins on February 4th, then it won't be considered a success. That is why officials say there will be restrictions placed on athletes and other participants, which will limit their freedoms, but they have been warned to adhere to the rules, and if there is any breach of the codes, we are told there could be punishments, possibly warnings or possibly even disqualification from events. Another big challenge for Beijing will be how to contain growing calls for a boycott of the Games, particularly among activists over issues like human rights in Xinjiang and Hong Kong and Tibet, and the issue of Taiwan as well. That is likely perhaps to get louder over the coming 100 days, but it will be easier to contain on the ground, at least because of the fact, as we know, there aren't going to be any international spectators coming to China for the Games. So we aren't likely to see some of the protests or political stunts or whatever you want to call them that took place in Athens recently during the torch lighting ceremony. Patrick Falk for CBC News, Beijing.
Time now to check in with meteorologist Johanna Wagstaffe. And Joe, it was a beautiful day today, but I sense and I know that this shift is coming.
Yes, Anita, it was not much of a break between systems, and the shift is knocking on our door as we speak. Let me take you to the radar. The next atmospheric river, as I mentioned earlier, crossing through parts of the southern Gulf Islands, starting to see that fill in. This is a very heavy rain event south of the border. Washington and Oregon will be seeing the bulk of this heavy rain. But over the next couple of hours, it'll cross the strait, filling in for Metro Vancouver as well. So look for one of those nights where you'll be hearing the rain pounding on the roof and the windows. Temperatures right now, double digits, 11 for YVR. We actually hit 12 earlier today in the sunshine, but there was a brisk wind out there, wasn't it? That was a little on the chilly side. We will see our temperatures drop as we get into a cooler air mass for the end of the week. But first, let's get us through the river. So taking us through the late evening, early morning hours, you can see the yellows in the forecast model. That's the heavier rain. So Port Renfrew, Victoria really seeing the heaviest. And then out towards East Metro Vancouver and Chilliwack. East of that, we get into the snow, and snow levels down around 1,600 meters briefly through the overnight. So we might wake up to some fresh snow on the locals. Won't see it though, because that rain will continue through Thursday afternoon. Here's pausing you at 1 p.m. Notice the orange in my forecast model. That's the very heavy rain. So Tri-Cities, heads up, could be looking at some good downpours before this system begins to ease. Probably late tomorrow evening is when we'll finally see that clear out, and clear out it will. Friday, sneak peek at what the end of the week looks like. Here's 11 a.m. Pretty much nothing but a few North Shore cumulus left, and we're looking at blue sky after that. Have to get through that rain for the interior tomorrow, 10 to 20 millimeters for Kelowna. Those showers moving towards the Kootenays for the most of the day. Kamloops, Williams Lake, washout of a day for you as well. Not the heavy rain that we're seeing on the south coast, but definitely showers for everyone. Prince Rupert, you might actually get some sunshine in the afternoon. Same story for Prince George and the Peace. Watches this fire hose, though. It doesn't stick around for long. It eventually sinks south, and we get nice high pressure for the end of the week. And that for us means clear but cool. We'll look for those overnight lows to drop, but seasonal afternoon highs. And Anita, that sunny stretch lining up with the weekend, I'm happy I can be the deliverer of that news. We're due.
It's looking good. Wow. Thanks, Jill.
You're welcome.
Police in New Mexico say it's too early to figure out whether charges will be laid in the fatal film set shooting involving actor Alec Baldwin. As Eli Glasner reports, a crew member was killed and the director was hurt on the set of the movie Rust last week.
The investigation continues into the tragic shooting on the movie Rust, a movie where Alec Baldwin was given a pistol he was told was safe. The term is cold. The assistant director called out the term cold gun, handing the revolver to Baldwin, who then shot the cinematographer Helena Hutchins in the chest, also striking the director Joel Souza in the shoulder.
We're trying to determine the people that inspected or handled the firearm when it was loaded before it got to Mr. Baldwin. We're interviewing, and there's some follow-up questions that we need to do.
Gloria Allred is representing Mamie Mitchell, the script supervisor on set, who called 911 after the shooting.
She indicates that in her 40 years, she has never seen an assistant director hand a gun, loaded or not loaded, to an actor. It's just not done.
Allred told CBC News that very least a civil lawsuit is likely because of the many potential violations of safety protocols. At a press conference this morning, the sheriff's office announced they recovered a lead projectile that was fired from the antique Colt revolver, killing the cinematographer, striking her in the chest. The question is how that live round found its way into the pistol and why the police say they found so many live rounds on set. Dave Brown is a firearms safety coordinator in Winnipeg.
There's a lot of steps that take place, and it seems like this production skipped all of them for some reason. Number one rule, never live ammunition on a set. Absolutely not. Never acceptable under any circumstances whatsoever.
Brown also demonstrated the checks he performs every time a gun changes hands, safety measures that are at the center of this deadly incident. Eli Glasner, CBC News, Toronto.
When you hear the phrase therapy animals, do goats come to mind? Next, we'll show you the farm owners who say their animals are helping people heal.
So I just bought this razor that is for self haircuts, and then I kind of just went for it, and I'm pretty sure the first one looked terrible. Hi, my name is Esteban Cortez Vargas. My pronouns are he, him, they, them. The importance of my hair to my identity comes down to breaking gender norms or kind of fitting my appearance to what I see it as and how I feel. It's sometimes that simple, and it's sometimes more complicated than that. I would go into hair salons and they always ask you, like, what are you looking for, right? And I think I would be pretty clear. Like, I'd bring a picture or a couple pictures and I'd say, I think I'm looking for something like this. Usually it was a more masculine kind of short hair, kind of clean sides. And then at the end of the cut, they would always in some way find a way to make it more feminine. It's learning to do that flick that I thought I was actually gonna be very bad at it. Because I'm not actually the most detail-oriented, like especially to this. Get all of those hairs at the bottom. And then I realized it wasn't stressful. I realized it was really easy. I realized it was kind of fun. I could put music on. That for me, like having an activity that was gender affirming was something that I was looking for, so I could do it with my shirt off, or I could do it like kind of play with my hair and try different things and kind of imagine different looks for myself that maybe I wouldn't be brave enough to actually go with at the end. And so it became more of a kind of a playful experience, and that's what made a difference. And so this is why I can dance while I'm doing this, because it's pretty foolproof for the most part if I don't. I think the fact that as trans or non-binary people, we enter into a lot of spaces and are uncomfortable and are kind of measuring our safety or whether people are going to kind of try to tell us how to be or how to exist, just having one simple experience that is just fun, rejuvenating, and gender affirming can be like, it's just in itself a way of healing.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
Join Gloria Makarenko at the 65 Roses Soiree, a virtual boutique experience in support of Cystic Fibrosis Canada. Get your tickets today at 65rosesgala.com. And the Chutzpah Festival of International Jewish Performing Arts returns with an exciting lineup of performances, including dance, music, theater, and more. Visit chutzpahfestival.com for more info.
A lot of people turn to therapy animals to cope with mental health issues. And if they're in Lawrencetown area in Halifax, a local farm there has goat them. As Nicole Seguin tells us, the farm owners say their therapy goats are helping people heal and change their lives for the better.
Supper! Ataraxy Farm is home to an eclectic group of animals, from horses to guinea fowl. But the main attraction is the goats. Kim and Blair Davis started their farm 8 years ago to help treat Blair's service-related PTSD.
It's helped me heal from the trauma that I had.
After serving in Bosnia, Blair was suffering. While going through rehab with Veterans Affairs, he realized caring for animals could be his purpose. What started with one goat named Fred has become 48 goats spanning 4 generations. They're friendly, calm, and love people.
They're very sensitive to our emotions, body language.
After seeing how much the therapy goats helped Blair, they opened the farm to the community this summer. The goats are visited regularly by injured veterans, children with autism, and people dealing with any mental health issue.
When I was in Bosnia, it was all about the kids. The kids were innocent. And to have the children come out here and play and see them laugh and be free and nothing to worry about, it helps me. It's healing.
The name Ataraxy means a state of serene calmness, what the farm represents for Blair and now many others.
We started, getting more people here with different types of disorders, mental disorders, PTSD, anxiety, depression, and they're like, it's so calming here and they want to come back, and then other ones want to volunteer.
Abby Burke is one of the volunteers. Throughout the pandemic, she suffered from anxiety, which caused her to miss 6 months of school.
She really withdrew into herself, and she was spending most of her time in a room, didn't want to do anything, didn't want to go anywhere, she just wanted to sleep all the time.
Then she met the goats and blossomed.
I feel more in my element when I'm with the goats, to be honest. They're just more understanding. They can't really judge you like other people can.
That's why Kim and Blair Davis do it.
And that's what this experience is about, is allowing people to find those emotions that they've lost. And the goats do that.
The farm has free tours every weekend for anyone who might need some comfort. Nicola Sagan, CBC News, Lawrencetown.
Okay, switching from goats to slithery snakes and black bats. Some creepy crawlies, of course, associated with Halloween get a bad rap. So we're taking a look at why that is. Here's one animal always keeping a close eye on your every move.
Hi, I'm Ryan Fisher, and I study owls here at the Royal Saskatchewan Museum. Now, owls make the perfect Halloween animal because they're absolutely built for the night. So owls have long wings relative to their body, which helps them flap as little as possible, and that keeps them as silent as possible throughout the night. They also have some really neat adaptations on their feathers. So the front part of their flying feathers are serrated like a knife, and that helps to cut down the air that moves over the wing. And then the back part of their feathers are velvety, and that helps to further dampen sound. Like you'll see in the owl behind me too, lots of them have this circle around their face of feathers, which acts as a bit of a satellite dish to help focus sound that comes into their ears so that they can find their prey at night. So we have 10 owls here in Saskatchewan. They're found all over the province, from the extreme northern border to the southern border and east and west. They inhabit lots of different types of habitat here in the province, from the grasslands to the forest. So owls are your perfect Halloween animal.
The perfect Halloween animal, and I'd say the perfect animal any time of year. I love owls. Thanks for watching CBC Vancouver News at 6. Dan is here with more local news at 11 tonight after the National. Have a good night.